What's up guys? Welcome back to another how-to video. This video is going to cover the resealing of a Toyota power steering pump. I have a few pumps that need to be rebuilt. I ordered the parts through partsouq.com. So if you guys are looking for some kind of hard to find Toyota parts, check that place out. I will throw a link in the description. At least a site that you guys can, copy paste, go find your parts, punch in your JDM car. And there's a couple other companies. They're not just Toyota. They do cover a few of the brands. Stuff kind of hard to get. The Aristo parts are definitely getting harder and harder to find. So basically what I'm going to do is take you through resealing a pump that was dumping oil out the front of it, so out the front bearing. And I will not be replacing the little vanes, so you'll see those once I actually get into this. Whole reasoning behind this is my Aristo's pump just quit. At least I hope it's the pump and not the rack. But either way, I'm going to reseal this pump, all Toyota parts, and I'm going to take you guys with me. Okay, so first of all, this is the pump that we're going to be using. It was dumping oil out this front seal, or this front bearing. I think it's still in pretty good shape, the bearing itself. We'll feel it once we get it apart. But you can see everything here. It's just the pump. So first of all, we need to get the tools together, and then we can dive into this. I am going to print out an exploded view so that I kind of know where each of the seals are meant to go inside this thing, and also just to be sure that I'm putting everything back apart the way that it came apart. I'm putting it back together the way that it came apart. I'm hoping this is a little bit better angle for you guys. So I've printed out, you guys can see here, the exploded diagram from PartsOUQ. And that basically is going to give me everything that I need to get this thing pulled apart and tell me where all my seals and stuff go. So you guys can see here, they have a full rebuild kit. That's the part number. This is all the different seals. It's actually not a rebuild kit, it's a reseal kit. So I don't want you guys thinking that this is, a one and done. Now, if your pump is completely not working, there's a chance that the vanes, which you guys will see here in just a minute, have stopped either throwing out or whatever the process is. It might not be actually drawing the fluid in. So fluid goes in here, the vanes will kind of compress it and give it pressure, and then output it back here. Yeah, so that's kind of the general idea. You guys can see this pump's kind of gross. Hopefully you guys can see that, but I think first things first, we need to get these 4 bolts off here, and then the back should lift off. Those are going to be 12 millimeter. Yeah, so I think what the plan is going to be is to put this thing in the vise. The lighting's not great over here with the vise, but hopefully you guys can see good enough to where you know what's going on. Alright, hopefully you guys can see. I got the pump in the vise. You guys need to be really careful. Don't go crazy clamping this thing down around where the bearing is. It is an iron housing, but it's not something that you would want to crank down on. Just basically enough to give you an extra hand. I'm going to crack these guys loose. You can already see this thing's trying to move on me. It's going to come loose. But again, I really don't want this thing to hurt where the bearing is. If you've got air tools, it'll probably make this a lot easier. I'm going to suggest you guys keep up with these bolts. They look like they're going to be different lengths, more than likely. Looks like there's too short, too long, more from what I can tell. And this is going to make a mess. So I've already laid paper towels out in strategic places because I was already making a mess. That was easy enough. Doesn't look terrible, so that's good. So in here is how this thing works. These little veins move in and out as the pump turns. I have to be honest, I don't really know how this thing comes apart, but we're going to figure it out. Okay, so there's the rotor housing. So this thing kind of works like a rotary. So it's got, instead of having a triangle in here, it's got a bunch of different little flaps that move in and out as it moves in a circle here. Yeah, this is a mess. I am going to take a look at the drawing before I just grab this thing and pull it out, make sure I'm not going to screw this thing up. But looks to me there's like 2 dowels that probably hold all of this in place. Yep. And then, yeah, so that lifts up. And I'd say it matters to which direction everything goes. I'm just going to collapse all of these veins, I think. I'm going to put everything back together the way it came apart. So I'm going to put it in my tray to where I just lift it up and put it straight back down where it was. Looks like this guy just lifts right up. I don't know, maybe if I should... I don't know, I'm a little worried about these little veins. I'm thinking I might just wrap like a zip tie or something. I don't think that's going to really do me much good. So these guys just come out. And this is actually what creates the pressure. My big thing is I want to make sure it goes back in the exact way that it came out. That's kind of why I want to leave. Kind of want this to just come apart all at once, because this just slides on this shaft here. And it might not matter. You might be able to just throw these things apart, take these things apart. Now this does have a rounded edge, so I can see that at least. Get some more paper towels going on here. I think I'm just going to lay these out on the paper towel. I guess I can't screw this thing up any more than it already is, really. But I'd prefer it to work when I put it back together. I think that's kind of, everybody would prefer that. Clean all this back up. We'll clean all this up. I don't think you have to go too crazy cleaning this stuff, as you just don't want like metal or any kind of foreign contaminants really getting in here, just like an engine. But I don't think that it needs to be like super dry or anything. I think I'm going to put it back together with Lucas makes like a power steering stop leak, and it's almost like a honey, so it's kind of thick. So I have some of that, and that'll kind of act like a pre-lube for this. Because I am guessing at how all this stuff comes apart. Just kind of bear with me here. I do have my little exploded view here. I could refer to that. Probably just hang that up here in front of me. All right. So then here is this big gasket that goes between everything, which we have a new one of those, and it's got a little bent edge on it. I don't know if that's intentional, but that definitely seals the middle of this pump. Which this one wasn't leaking, or at least it wasn't leaking too bad. So that's that. This is fluid here. Kind of gross fluid at that. These pins probably press in. So I know that there's a snap ring right here that needs to come out. I need to go get my snap ring pliers. Alright guys, so good news. You do need to tap on this guy. Depending on how rusty it is in here, it may give you a little bit of grief coming out. I've had to persuade it a little bit, but I'm not actually using anything that is very heavy at all. I was just using the back of these channel locks with this socket on here. So I am going to go grab a hammer to just have a little more weight behind it, and it should knock right out. And then I'll definitely take and clean the inside of this bearing, where the bearing actually goes in and out. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, I might need a press to press this out of here to replace the seal that's back there. But maybe the seal can be driven on from this side. I'm hoping. We'll see. I'd prefer to use this bearing if it's still in good shape. Alright, so success. The shaft is out. This bearing seems like it's in good shape. And I don't think I'm going to replace it. I guess the seal down here is just worn out, which I'm going to have to figure out how to get that one out. So I'm not really sure. Maybe a screwdriver and just pop it, you know, kind of towards me. There's like a bushing down in there, so make sure you guys don't mess with that. You don't want to hurt that, or this pump will never work right again. This seal does have a spot in it, so that's good to know, because this thing was dumping fluid out the front of it. But it has been, it's seen some stuff, guys. It was on my drift car for years, and who knows how long it was on a Soarer before that. I mean, I assumed the engine was from a 95, so this thing was due. Might have to use some sort of like puller. And if that's the case, this is gonna have to wait for another day. I'm gonna work on this thing, let you guys know if I get it out. Alright, being that I was struggling so hard with getting the other seal out, I decided to focus on this, which is the aluminum, the back piece. Now, I said that it felt like there was tension, and that's because there is. There's actually a spring clip. This came out like straight up like this. You see here, it's got grooves in it to keep it, you know, where it's supposed to be, so that it'll kind of ride around where it needs to. But it's got the locating pins, and this is actually the surface that I think pushes against the little like little rotors. So you know, it doesn't look great. It's not perfect, but I don't think that it would keep it from functioning. These, I will say, these two seals, this one came from down in here, and this one also came from down in there. They're hard as a rock, so that's not good. So I looked in my baggie here, and I've got two new seals here, right here, and then yeah, so this is the new seal that I think is actually the one that is our failure point in the other piece. I'm going to clean this up and get these seals back in. I cleaned this guy up a little bit, and like I said, I think that this actually needs to kind of go down so that it is in the correct place, with the little dowels that are in there. So it came apart differently, then it's going to go back together. But clean this guy up. I am going to use a little brake clean just to get there's some funk down in here. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to like scrape anything, but you know, anything that'll come out with a little brake clean, and then I'll re-lube everything up with some of that that Lucas thick power steering fluid, or it's like an ATF, but it's really thick and it's red. But yeah, so that's going to be, I'm going to clean this thing up, and I found my hook scribe that I have here at the house, so hopefully I can maybe pry on this thing to pop that other seal out. So I'm going to get this cleaned up. Yeah. Oh, also, here's the other piece. It does come with the O-ring that goes around here that seals that. That's this guy here, I believe. I don't know if these are identical or not. One seems like it's fatter than the other, and it could very well be that I have them. No, I think that this one's right. So I believe that this one here goes on this. So, and I think they actually include a new feed O-ring, but I'm not positive. I haven't found a little guy other than the one that goes on the feed. So it kind of looks like that one. But clean this up. Going to continue working on the other piece, and if I can get that seal out, we're going to start putting it back together. All right, good news. So basically I've kind of made my own little puller here. Some little oversized washers here with a nut, just something long enough that I can get up inside. So I hooked them up, got them behind the seal, and then I was able to use an extension to drive down inside here and hit where this nut was. Now you're going to need to switch sides back and forth a little bit so that it doesn't just get, you know, stuck sideways. So you're going to want to kind of hit here, 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 and then you can see it eventually just drove it out. So that's out now. That's good, because that means that I can go through, kind of clean everything out from the inside of here, just, you know, just get all the gunk out. You don't have to go crazy. You just don't want any kind of like, you know, loose foreign objects floating around in there, especially like old pieces of a seal or anything like that. So I'm going to clean this out. I've got the new seal. What you have to do is you have to find a socket that fits as close to the edge of this as you possibly can, and then you'll drive it back in to where it's, you know, down in there. Alright guys, so quick update. Got the new seal in there. You guys can't really see it. You guys can see where this is. Drive it back down where it was, or nearly. Just make sure that it is at least as down in there as it was before. I wasn't going to replace this bearing, but I noticed that there was a spot in the seal when, so this is a sealed bearing. One of the seals for the ball bearings was blown inward from the back side, probably due to the oil seal failing in here. So I did opt to change the bearing. I'm going to save this one so that I can get another one locally. It's just a Koyo, but it's got a number on it. So I can take this to my local bearing shop, and they should be able to figure out, you know, what a good replacement for this one, or an OEM replacement, would be. The new one is an NTN, which is a pretty popular brand. It was a Toyota, so this is a superseded part number. Where this presses on is a little thicker, and then the outside race is a little bit thicker as well. So it's probably a slightly more heavy-duty bearing, or just an updated, you know, different company's part number. So I believe this is ready to go back in the housing and get the new clip, I think. I took a little bit of Scotch-Brite onto the inside where the bearing goes, because it was kind of a pain to get out. So that should be much easier to install now with a little bit of this stuff. This is what I've been using as like a assembly oil. So it's just a really thick power steering, like a ATF type fluid. And it's got like seal conditioner stuff in it. So that's what I've been using to lubricate things. I'm going to continue to do so. And I'm hoping that this thing's ready to go back together now. So cross your fingers, guys. To know that I'm not getting center here, and I was staring at the breeze, so a little bit. That's right. So pretty much, I think just the edge, the breeze is a hard piece. I really just want to do, I'm going to use this now one. Use a little bit on either side, a little bit crooked, not be right, will not go in. Once you sound fairly tapping safe. I want to make sure this will turn all the way down here. I'm really pushing it all the way up. I'm serious. There it goes now. There it goes. I can see the groove. There it goes. No, use that ring. There it turns. That's good. Use that ring. Turn something, boys. This one will play. Try to see something here. Alright, so what I usually do is I'll get back going. Oh, perfect. So one thing you can do, just to ensure this is in the right place, take this guy back this way, and just do a quick little tap back this way so that we know that it's against the snap ring. You don't want to go crazy because you'll damage the bearing, but now we know that this bearing is up against the snap ring, so that you don't have any issues. But that's this part of the pump. Now we need to address putting the rest back together, which consists of the rotary piece, this housing right here. I am now wishing that I had taken a picture of this. I need to go back and look. It might not even matter, but then again it might. So this right here looks to be the correct position. It is. You can see there's a very small indentation where it was, so it was definitely in the holes that I was just in. This one and this one. Yeah. So yeah. Just ever so slightly you can see like a slight wear mark of where it used to be. So I'm going to suggest putting it back exactly the way you took it apart. I don't know how important it is, but because of that I say put it back together the way you took it apart. Wipe it all down. This guy must be... Yeah, so this one goes here. This one goes here. Alright, so one thing I am going to do here is this. Last thing you want is this thing to dry start, because this thing's never been dry started even from the factory, so you kind of want to take your time, and just like an engine, you don't want this thing to dry fire. Little assembly lube here, and this is, you know, meant for power steering systems. But again, like I said, I'm using this as like an assembly lube. You guys can see like how stringy this stuff is, and I think that'll be good for a kind of a rebuild situation. Well, reseal. I can't use the word rebuild because we're not replacing all of these parts. Maybe I should put a little bit of this stuff in here too, hold it all together. You guys will notice on these there's a rounded edge, and that's basically where it was wearing inside of here. I'm just going to put it all back exactly the way that I took it out, and hope, because this pump worked. This is my drift car, but it just leaked like crazy. So let's hope that it still works now that I've taken it all apart. I mean, worst case, it should at least not leak everywhere. I'm just kind of presetting these where this pump sits right now. I don't even know if that's necessary, but I guess it can't hurt. But these guys will at least be thrown out to the point they would be. All right. So I guess next, before I forget, this new gasket goes on. Wipe off the old funk. Put that guy there. I think I am going to load this thing up just a little bit with this stuff. Again, I just want this thing to work right. This is what I would do with an engine oil pump, so I'll be honest, I'm going to say that seems correct there. I did lube up all my seals already. I'm gonna wipe this off just to be sure we have a nice clean sealing surface. I think I'm just gonna have to kind of go for it a little bit. Maybe if I put the bolts as guides. I want to make note here, I'm not using this to draw these in. I don't like to do that, it tends to break things. I'm using it kind of as like a guide bolt to make sure the gasket stays where it's supposed to. Okay. You guys remember me telling you that I felt some resistance taking it apart, and that was because it has that spring on it, and that puts the extra tension on the actual rotor itself inside. That little spring clip isn't all that strong. So you should be able to push this thing down and basically get this thing seated by hand. If you can't, you probably got an O-ring that's pushed out of place or something. So I need a socket for these, 12 millimeter. I used a wrench before just to break them loose. Should be able to just tighten up now. Okay, so got these guys tight, and still need to change this O-ring here, which you're going to need a hook scribe. It is ancient old. Don't stab yourself. This O-ring probably feels better than every other O-ring. Still not great. New O-ring. I'll wipe this guy off. This is going on threads, guys, so be gentle that you don't nick it going up the threads, because the threads seem to be pretty sharp still. So I just double checked. There is no O-ring on this. This is just the little slider. I'll wipe it off. Little guy that goes down in there. Like I said, guys, I'm not going crazy with this thing because I really, I kind of don't want to disrupt things that, could possibly cause more issues. So, spring, little plunger guy that goes on here, and this goes down in here. This guy here, a little bit on the threads, a little bit down here where it makes contact. Over here. Thread this guy back down in there, make sure that everything contacts inside the way that it's supposed to. Well, I can hear things happening inside, so that's a good sign, I think. Okay, guys, so basically you just need to get this tight enough to where when you are tightening and loosening the fitting that goes onto here, your high pressure, that it's not going to loosen back up on you. You can always you're really supposed to hold this with a wrench, then break the other one loose. Yeah, so got that tight. Got my 4 bolts snugged. They were pretty much all perfect. I can hear things happening as I spin this thing, so that's a good thing. I think we might have a success here, guys. Like I said, my main concern is not to, fire this thing dry. That's the last thing I want to do with all the new seals and everything. Alright, guys, I guess that's, kind of that. Last thing you have to do is put it back in the car, flush as much of the old fluid out as you possibly can, clean out the reservoir. You don't have to go crazy. Don't go nuts. Just make sure there's nothing that's going to wreck all the work you just did. So put this thing back in, crank the wheels back and forth after you get everything hooked up, bleed the system that way, and I guess fire it up, make sure it works. Let me know if this worked for you guys. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if this was just ridiculous. If you liked it, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments, if this was helpful. So I'll keep doing videos like this if that's the case. I want to help you guys. That's kind of the main point of me doing this channel, other than, just letting you guys come along with some of the things that I do. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I'll see you guys soon for another how-to. Bye.